Hi, and welcome to my channel. This is going to be my GCSE study and revision series, where I will be going through the GCSE Maths Edexcel higher. This can also be used for anyone who is doing the foundation as well. So we're going to start off with video 1.1, place value and rounding. So first of all, we're going to look at the symbols. So here in this table, I have listed out what the meaning of these symbols are. And now let me show you how they are drawn. So first we're going to look at less than. So this is the symbol for less than. An easy way to remember this is because less than is pointing to your left. So left hand, less than. So that's the easy way to remember it by. So this is greater than. This is less than or equal to. This is more than or equal to. This is equal to. This is not equal to. Okay, so knowing these symbols are not enough. We need to know what they do and how to use them. In each of these symbols, okay, so two numbers go either side. So one number on this side and one number is on the left side, one number on the right side. And this does is it just compares the values between either side. And it is a way of showing this comparison of the values mathematically. So instead of saying one number is bigger than the other, this actually shows mathematically one number is actually bigger than the other. Okay, now let's look at some examples. So example. So here we have 6.8 is less than 7. And 486 is greater than 400. 19 is not equal to minus 19. 2 is equal to 2. Okay, so in these examples, you can clearly see how these symbols are used. This is the correct way of using them. And don't use it like this. So for example, this is wrong. So when you move the 7 to the left hand side, you are not actually comparing these two values. This on the on the left hand side, now it just becomes one value, and this is not what is meant to show. So this is completely wrong. And it's the same for this side, for this one as well. So when you move everything to the right hand side, this becomes the wrong thing. I mean, later on in the video, I will show you what's the correct way of using something similar to this bit. Okay, so now we're going to move into rounding. So what is rounding? Rounding is when you shorten a number to make it easier to read or use, but it must be kept as close to its original value. And so with the rounding will make the number less accurate, but it will make life easier when doing complicated calculations. And there are kind of two types of rounding. So first is the decimal places, and second is significant figures. Okay. And how do you actually round numbers in general? Well, there's a general rule of thumb. So general rule is round up if the next digit is 5 or more, and round down if the next digit is 4 or less. Okay, so in here when it says 5 or more and 4 or less, we can actually write this in terms of mathematically as shown in the previous slides. So if we take the 5 or more, so we can write it as this shows this next digit is more than or equal to 5. And in here it shows the similar way, but it shows this next digit is less than or equal to 4. Okay. Well, so now we've seen this. Now, rounding the decimal places is the same way. Sorry, first of all, we're going to look at the first example. So rounding to nearest 10. So our number is going to be 265. And then because it's to the nearest 10, we're going to split this number like this. And then, so 6 is in the 10th column, and 5 is the number that we need to check to see if it rounds up or down. Since this is 5, and earlier on we saw the rule states if the number is equal to 5 or more than 5, then we can round up. So we round up this number. So we round out 265 into 270. So that's the answer of rounding 265 to the nearest 10. And example 2, round to the nearest 100. So we're going to do the same thing. So in this, as you can see, 276 is the value that we're going to do it for. And now when we look at it, 200 is in the hundreds column, so we move 1 to the right, and then we check the second number, which is 7. So 7 is in the tens column. So if we check 7 against 5, 7 is greater than 5, so we round up to 276. Sorry, and so we round out 276 into 300. So that's what we do. Okay, now let's move on to another example. So round to nearest 100. So if we take 45 here, so 45 is less than 100, and then the number that should be on the left of 40, on the left of 4 is the hundreds column. So we check this value, the fourth value. Not the fourth value, the number 4, that value. Since 4 is less than 5, we round down. So 45 is actually equal to 0 when we round to the nearest 100. Okay, so decimal places. For the decimal places, it can so there are many ways of showing this, but I think this is an easier way to show this. So this is the decimal point, the black point, shown in the red arrow, and from each of these blue lines, I've shown you the positions of these decimal places. It's sometimes in the question they say round to 2 decimal place or decimal points and 3 decimal points. So this is kind of what you need to look for. Okay, and in the decimal places, so in the decimal places there are names for it. So each of those positions. So instead of saying first position, second position, it's actually called the 10th, hundredths, thousandths, or yeah, it's a little hard to pronounce, but yeah, thousandths, and so on and so forth. So these are their actual names. So when rounding in decimal places, it's the same as I rounded before, but the only thing is you need to just count the decimal places and compare the value next to that number. If it's more than 5, then add 1 to that number, and if it's less than 5 or 4 or less, you have to reduce that number by 1. So how to round decimal values? So this is an example. So round to the nearest 10th. So in this, as you can see, I have chosen 25.746. In here, 10th is the first decimal place. So when you split that number down the middle, I split this number down the middle because it's easier to see. So 7 is in the 10th position. So which means we have to compare number 4, which is next to the 7. So since 4 is less than 5, round down. So this means 25.746 to the nearest 10th is 25.7. Okay, now let's look at significant figures. So what are significant figures? Significant figure is a non-zero digit. Okay, but there is one thing to it though. So the 0 is not a significant figure unless if the 0 is sandwiched by 2 numbers. Okay, so what I mean by sandwiched by 2 numbers, when when it's sandwiched by two numbers, then 0 becomes a significant figure. So what I mean by sandwich is when you have a non-zero number on the left and you have a non-zero number on the right of that 0, that's what is called sandwich. So it's a little bit like a normal sandwich that you have. So you have a piece of bread underneath and you have a piece of bread on top. And in the middle, you have the filling like cheese or something. So it's in the same way. You have 0 in the middle like you have in the cheese. And two pieces of bread as if you're having two numbers on either side. Now, example of significant figures. So I'm going to use 206 as an example first. So number 2 is the first significant figure. You always count from left to right when you count in significant figures. So number 2 is the first significant figure. 0 is the second significant figure. And 6 is the third significant figure. I chose 0 as a significant figure, as a second significant figure, because 0 is sandwiched by 2 and 6. 2 and 6 are non-zero values, and it's sandwiched in the 0. So 0 becomes a significant figure. So another example is this one. So 0.04506. So this value, so when you start counting from left to right, so first value is 0, so 0.0. So 0 and 0, they're not sandwiched by any non-zero number. So they are not significant figures. 4 is the first significant figure, and 5 is the second. 0 between the 5 and 6 is the third significant figure, and 6 is the fourth significant figure. So now you should have a clear idea of what the significant figures are and how to actually spot the significant figures. So if we are going to round a number to the nearest two significant figures, this is what we're going to need, what we are going to do. So we're going to take 3.437, okay? So because this is nearest two significant figures, we need to look at the second significant figure. So that second significant figure is 4. So we need to round this value from the third significant figure. So that's why I said compare with the blue arrow and pointing to 3. Because 3 is the value that you need to compare. So 3 is less than 5. So you round down. Okay, so 3.437 to the nearest two significant figures is 3.4, and significant figures is shown by this s2.s.f. If it was three significant figures, you would say 3.s.f. Okay, and in a summary, in this video, what you learned is, first, the mathematical symbol for comparing values. So they are the less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or not equal to values. And you have looked at rounding. So you've looked at rounding to the nearest decimal place, and you have looked at rounding to the nearest significant figure. Okay, and thank you very much for listening. This is a very short video, and I tend to keep all of these videos very short because it's much easier for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and also let others know of this channel so they can have access to this content as well. And please leave any comments below if you would like for me to go through anything more, or if you would like for me to go through any other revision videos. Well, thank you for listening, and bye. I'll see you next time.